Hi everyone, today I wanted to make a simple, very straightforward bookmark that is inspired by my recent trip to Colombia, where I was lucky to go see the coffee farm, like a real small one, a family-owned coffee farm, and all the learnings and all the coffee beans and coffee fruit I saw, they really inspired me, and I took a very cute picture, I think, that I will put in one of the corners here, that I thought is a really simple idea for a bookmark. So I already tried and did some sketches on on my sketchbook. It's kind of also thick paper, but I don't think it will be thick enough for a bookmark. And I have an example of a simple bookmark also that I was given in a bookstore. This is quite long. Let's see how long this is. This is about 7.5 inches, or if centimeters, it's about 19 centimeters. This is pretty long, but that is some common sizes, because as I researched, the common sizes in inches for the bookmarks are 2 by 6, 2 by 7, 2 by 8, and this is roughly 2 by 7.5. So this is pretty common size, but I think I would have done it maybe shorter. Let's see. Let's also see how big is the paper, and if it's in centimeters, the standard size is around 5.1 centimeters by 16 centimeters, but as you can see, this one was 19, and 15 centimeters is about 6 inches, so that's probably what I would go for. Let's see how this paper, so probably 6. I would do 6. So this is much thicker paper, you can see, and this is watercolor paper, Canson. I normally use in Canson in the bigger sizes as well, and this is 300 grams and 140 pounds. Oh yeah, and the size was here. So first I will measure, but I will not cut it out yet. And if you want to do a few bookmarks, that's perfect. You just measure them without cutting. You tape the edges and you paint, and then you can cut. So let's see, what did I say? 2 by 6. Okay. Those are potential for bookmarks, and as I said, this is 7.1 inches, so technically I can just use the 7-inch 2 by 7, which is a standard size, but if I want to make it shorter, I also can do that. I think I'm gonna leave it long. And see, now I need just to tape the in between, and I left half of an inch between all of them because this tape is half of an inch, so that will be convenient to me, but it doesn't really matter. You can make smaller or bigger and just tape, but make sure to use painter's tape or any tape that is not going to rip the paper off when you remove it. I really like this cute tape. It doesn't damage the paper. Just make sure you tape it also in a way that you're not messing with your own measurements. And make sure it's really sticking to the paper. And we will be working on this one. And also, as you can see, for example, this let's say template I have here has round corners, which is fine. You can easily make them round once you cut it, or because that will be also easier to make it last longer. Those corners will not be constantly picked by your fingers, by papers, or by whatever else, and they will not be damaged, so they will be staying intact. Okay, so let's get back to the image. I will make sure the image is somewhere in the corner, and I will also link in the description to the bigger file in case you want to see it in a bigger size. But the idea is that this coffee fruit and the stages of the ripeness of the coffee fruit from the green to the fresh coffee beans. And of course, when we see, for example, my sketch, that was only 5 inches, so I would probably need to go a little bit bigger. And what I also need to think about is to leave the same space on top and on the bottom, so the whole picture looks centered and more harmonious. So as we know, this is 7 inches. The center is around 3.5, around here. And I would do probably half of the inch. This is not exactly 7, that's 7.2. So I will do 7 grid from the bottom and 7 from here. So a little bit more than half of the inch. And I'll just make sure that my beans start from here and they end here. You can make it even smaller depending on what do you want, because of course you don't have to do the coffee. But I just thought that's really cute. And also what I would do, I would probably paint like this in the horizontal, because it's easier for me to imagine them in the horizontal way. So first I will do a very light sketch, because they don't have to be perfect. And also I'm gonna use acrylic gouache for this. I have a nice set here and all the colors. But I think watercolor would be also so beautiful for this. Okay, so we're going from the green one to the coffee beans, and those will be 8 steps. So when I marked the center, I'm planning to do 4 on this side and 4 on that side. But that right side, where more the redder and riper berries are, they are larger, so they may take a little bit more than a half, but roughly half and half, because that's a very convenient number to divide by half the 8 objects. So I start by the green one, and they are actually just kind of round ovals, and they differ in sizes. And this one has a little stem to it. And that's really amazing that you can see how the bean was growing. I have quite a dark pencil, but also for you to see better what I'm doing, but I would recommend using very light pressure when you do your sketch. This one looks like it's laying more horizontally. And that's already number 6. Then we have like this one. And 2 coffee beans, I took them from a different picture. When I hold them, I will also link to that one, but they are just 2 kind of ovals, tiny, just these 2 itty bitty babies coming from each berry. And I'm actually not a big coffee drinker. Let me know if you are, because maybe for you that's something really obvious, but I was just having the best time in that farm while they were explaining to me all the intricacies of growing and producing coffee. That was just amazing. Okay, and here we are, and as you can see, I placed them as I said, these 4 on that side, and these 4, because they're so large, they go a little bit on the left side, but in the end that is a perfect layout for them. And again, because we have the kind of like a straight line, make sure that it's roughly centered. Okay, now when we have our sketch, we are ready to paint. And of course I'm using paint, as I said. That would be very lovely with watercolor, I think. Of course, colored pencils, anything you want. And this is also a very nice thing to paint, like fruits or anything that has this ripening process, ripening period, because you can see how the colors go from one to another, and that is also will help you maybe learn colors and color mixing. So what we need, what colors we need, we of course need green and red, and these berries are more like brownish red, so I will take some brown, and we will probably use some yellow for some of the areas. And the beans themselves are quite light, so they are like beige greenish color, but we'll try to mix something similar. Let's start. And we can see that the first berry is quite green, and I also highly recommend you testing the colors on that paper that you're gonna use, because if I'm gonna test it on this paper, you can see this has a very bright white and this one has natural white. So what I want to do is I want to get the same paper and to see the colors with water, without water, and this is like a perfect color for the first one. And of course this is acrylic gouache, so I can use layers of it, and I'm using a round brush, well, because it will be easier to feel the round shapes. And also gouache was kind of made for illustrations, so that makes sense. But you can see, if you look closely at the pictures, that they're not just flat green or flat red. They have something on top of them or on the side of them, and that is like light, how the light was going. And once this one is dry, I will add a second layer that will be lighter. And let me see, maybe I can make it a little bit bigger for you. Yeah. Okay. The next one, the next stage is actually light green. So we're gonna mix some green with some white, and we need to see if it's that color. And it is not that color, because that looks to me like it has a little bit more yellow in it, and that's like a cooler green. But that's still too bright and too warm, I think. If you see this color, this looks too warm to me. So I am trying to mix now lemon yellow and sky blue, because they are both quite cold. They have cold temperature in them. And when you mix them, they are making this green. As you can see, it is a completely different green than this one. This one is much closer, I think, but it still needs more white and maybe more yellow. I think this is closer to how it looks like in nature. And again, we can see that one side has the light touching it, but I will do it with a second layer. But if you're not comfortable with layers, you can always leave some space in that area, because we can see that where the light's coming in. You can always leave the space. Mix in some more paint, like lighter and much lighter. So you add yellow and you add more white, and you keep testing until you have a nice color, and then you can kind of blend them in. But I would still recommend to do sort of very white highlight when this is dry. That's a little bit too much water. And the little stem that we have here, it's a little bit darker green with even kind of a little bit of brown. But the stem is such a tiny detail, you can leave it for last. Doesn't have to be done immediately when you're painting each. The next one is a very interesting color, because you can see it is still green inside, but it is already starting to be kind of red, pink on the edges. So what we can do is we can do layers. The first layer will be the same light green we used here, and it needs to be very thin layer with water, very nice layer, like a wash almost. And then we do that, we let it dry, and on top of that, on that areas, we will do the pink. Again, if you're not comfortable with the layers, you can only do just the area that looks green in the green, and the others you can do pinkish. Now we need that pinkish color, but we say only have the red. And you can see that's not red, it's exactly like a pink, almost leaning into purple, but somehow warm, very complex color. We don't have to get it that complex and that true to what we see, but we can try. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna mix red and white. You can add a little bit of yellow to make it less red and more on the orange side. That is a little bit too much orange, yellow probably. So I need to add more red and more white. And again, you can not only calibrate the colors by adding yellow or white, but also by adding a little bit more water. Because as you can see, if we add water, it becomes softer, the color. And we can try layering the sides. I did that. Now I will wash my brush and make it clean but wet. And I will try to, remove excess water, and I will just try to bring these two colors together. Just like that. Next one looks a little bit like apple to me. It has a much stronger purple kind of pink color on that side and a little bit orangey on that side, and they are cooler colors, so they will be easier to do when you have cool reds and cool blues and cool yellows. I have warm red, that's why this also looks warmer, not as cool as the original. But if you have choice, opt for cooler colors in this one. I will try to mix a little bit of blue with a little bit of red to see if I can get this nice purple that I can tone down to pink kind of red. No, that red is too warm for that. And also the pink is too warm. Look, this is very warm pink. So I am using another red, and this is acrylic, but this is magenta, so it is a red but cool red. It means that I can get closer color to what we have, because this red looks like this. As you can see, it's completely different and it's closer to the berries we have, especially if I mix it with a little bit of white to make it lighter. It's much closer, I think. And we can do the same thing again, because as you can see, there is a yellow orange kind of color underneath. So that's what we can do. We can mix some yellow and yellow and red. Don't make it too orangey, because that's still more yellow. Looks to me more yellow. Again, test. That's too orange, I think. And then with a thinned color, make the base for it. And then with that color, you cannot even wait until it's dried, so you can easily blend them. It's also kind of like a watercolor more technique, wet on wet, the two colors. So that is the base layer, but we can still see that the berry is much pinker. So we need to add some pink. Not directly pink, but the magenta that we grabbed. That's why I always, in my emails or on my blog, I say that it is good to have 2 reds, 2 blues, 2 yellows, because you need sometimes cooler colors. Okay, and once this is dry, we can also add more purple, more pink to it. The next one, we can see the light is coming straight up top, that we will add the white highlight, but we can see that when this side is kind of red pink, there is an area here that is almost purple. and we don't see any more yellow or green or orange here. It's all completely pink or purple or reddish. So that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna do the base layer, a little bit more water, like this, and then I will try to mix some cool blue with that pink, with that magenta, sorry, and also water it down to have a more purple color, which I need to be very, very careful about applying because it can overpower what we can see. But you can also add a tiny bit of blue directly if you're using the wet on wet technique, because it will mix up while the colors are still wet. And if it's too much water, just dry your brush with something and keep going with a dry brush. Soften the edges. And as you can see, I added blue here, but it mixed up and it gave us that purple color. Next one is like a burgundy color, which we rarely have in the sets. So what we can do is we can make a very, very dark, nice purple by mixing again the blue and the red. And in that case, it almost looks like the warmer red and blue would be better, because cooler red and blue will lean towards more purple, as you can see here. But if you mix warm red with even cool blue, it will lean towards black or dark brown more. And it's hard to see on the paper, but you can see on palette how they are two different. This is more purple and this is more brown, like a dark ripened cherry color. So that's what are we going in for here. And you can still adjust if you add more red. If you add more red, it will appear more burgundy, more like brown, leaning towards brown. Very, very nice color, a little bit closer to wine color if you wish. And then we test again, and you need to get it to the point where on paper, not just on the palette, because palette can be plastic or ceramic, different colors. When on paper it looks closer to what we have there. And of course, again, when we do it with water, you can see more of that color, of that purple color, that it's not brown right now, but purple. And of course, you can add white to it and tone it down, and then you can see that that it's not brown, that is kind of purple. So you keep balancing your color. I added a little bit more red, as you can see, and I think this color is very, very close, so I'm gonna go with this one. But again, I need to tone it, not tone it down, I need to thin it down, because we also have the next berry that is even darker than this one. So we don't want it to be really, really dark yet. We still need room for development of the color. And again, here we will add the light white highlight once it's done. If you see blobs like this, you can dry your brush and then just lift them up. or wait, and if the paint quality is good enough, they will quite kind of balance themselves out. So this is the base layer. Now we need to make it slightly darker on the edges. And you can also do this one kind of simultaneously, also the base layer. And you will always notice that the colors are different on the palette and on the paper. That's why we always do swatches, and we always test the colors on paper before doing the painting. And on my photo, that last berry looks quite kind of dirty because it's a very, very dark berry already, very ripened. You can make it realistic and paint it dirty, but you don't have to. It's easier to paint the dark berry, obviously, because it's just dark. And it even leans more towards the black color, as you can see. So I'm mixing a little bit more blue into the mix for the next kind of layer. And you can see it's blue if I go out, but that is not appearing blue when you apply it above the picture, because if I will show you like this, that is just like dark purple, but here, because we already have a different layer underneath, it appears differently. And that's also the power of making underpaintings or first base layers, because they help us create depth and different color perception. Okay, this one, and I need to go back to this one. And as you can see, we did not actually use brown for none of them. That is the dark color, and what I'm trying to do now, again, I am wetting my brush a little bit, drying it, and I will try to mix them. With acrylic it will not work that well, because acrylics dry so fast, and this is acrylic gouache, so it also dries quite fast. But if you can be quick, then that's perfect. And we know that we will have the lightest area here, so I'm not doing a lot of work on that area, and I will still add white there. We'll see how that dries, and if we have to, we can always go back and do some corrections. Okay, and we only have our little beans left. They look greenish, yellowish, I'd say, right? maybe even a little gray. The base is gray because they covered instead of mucus, but underneath underneath that mucus it's the berry itself, the very coffee bean that we drink, and that has a little bit darker color, which I think is a good idea to do the base layer being that kind of gray. Even can be lighter, I'd say. And at the moment we are not worried about this line in the center, because it's not, first of all, it's not really pronounced in this raw coffee beans, but then also that's something that we can add as last step, or even using a pencil or a pen. So that was the base layer, and now I think I will try and figure out what's best. You can try on your sketch, and I think that's perfect. If I layer on top the yellow, that gives exactly the color that they have, and this is cool yellow, lemon yellow, and the yellow is not mixed with anything, so as long as this one is quite dry, and I can just let them dry and see how that worked out. And then we can come back now to this little babies here and start adding the highlights. That one probably has the least highlight out of everyone else. And you can use the same brush you're using, or you can get a little tiny brush in case you are scared to mess up things. And if you think that the white is too bright for some of them, you can still mix it with something. But I'm using here just white, thin white, as you can see it's not that bright. Just try to see where the lightest part got on the beans. On some beans it may be an area, depending how they're located in direction to that source of the light, and in some it's just the dot because it is directly under the light. And here you can see it's a little dot, and then kind of the line, and then a little dot. Here again just the dot, but hard to really tell because it's so dirty. And again, if you think that you made a mistake and that's too white, you can always clean your brush in water, wetted but not dripping. Tap tap on the little paper towel you have and correct it, but as quickly still as you can, especially if it is acrylics you're working with, because they are not really forgiving for any mistakes. Okay, we added the highlights and we still have our little beans here. We need to figure out what to do with the lines and how to make them kind of pop, because they are probably for now most boring part of our bookmark. What we can do is we should do the lines, of course, and as they are not that visible on the photo, we can also experiment. And I think if we make them kinda yellow but not that bright yellow, maybe a little bit with red, like orange, but also need to be very, very careful to not make it too bright because they're so subtle. We don't want one detail to overpower everything on that little drawing. And to make it not that bright, you can either add opposite on the color wheel color, or what I'm doing, I'm adding a little bit of black to it. Yeah. So I got this color, and now I am going to get a thin brush. I did have a very nice thin brush. Where is it? Where is it? That's a mystery. Where is it? Okay, I will try this brush, but it's not of a very good quality already. We will see how that goes. And when you work with really tiny brushes and lines like this, you better practice first. As you see, this brush is not cooperating. Okay, like this maybe. And you see I'm doing this part behind because it's also like a shadow part. So we can do that, but very gently. All right, the beans are also done. And if you still feel like something is missing, as I said again, you can try and make it better when it's dry with a pencil or a pen, because you will have more control over the tip of a pen. It's not as unpredictable as brushes. Now we have this. You can leave it as it is. You can think of a background, something neutral that will bring this whole thing together. You can even write something, but bear in mind that it will be like this, vertical. And let me zoom out a little bit. So this is a really, really cute, I think, and minimalist watermark, I'm already saying. I think it does need some sort of background, but what I would do very neutral background. But first I want to just cut it out and see how it looks without it. Let me cut it. So this is with the already cut round corners how it looks like. I think I love minimalist things and I do abstract art, so I really would not do a background, but I understand if you want, you absolutely should. But I think it's just so cute and pretty, and let's see it in action. I have a book and I do not have a bookmark for it. I use my stamp from one of Japanese temples, and I read a few books at the same time, so as you can see, this just is so pretty. Oh, and as we have the other side, you can either make notes on it, you can make the same painting on both sides, you can do nothing with it, but I think this is really, really beautiful. What do you think? Let me know in the comments, and thank you for following me.